Robert Hanssen, the mole in the FBI. Robert Hanssen was born on April 18, 1944, in the sprawling city of Chicago, a place where the clang of industry mingled with the hum of urban life. The city's restless energy was a backdrop to a childhood shaped by discipline and expectation. His father, Howard Hanssen, was a Chicago police officer, a man of stern demeanor and unwavering authority. In the Hanssen household, order was paramount, and young Robert quickly learned that obedience was not optional but demanded. Howard's presence was a constant, a looming figure whose rigid standards left little room for deviation. The lessons of law enforcement and control were etched early into Robert's psyche, instilling a respect for authority that would later become both a shield and a weapon. The family's Catholic faith was another pillar of Robert's upbringing. Raised in a devoutly conservative household, religion was woven into the fabric of daily life. The church was more than a place of worship. It was a moral fortress, a place where right and wrong were sharply defined, and where the struggle between sin and salvation was a constant theme. From an early age, Hanssen absorbed the doctrines of confession, penance, and redemption. The rituals and teachings of Catholicism offered a framework through which he would interpret the world and his own actions. This early religious fervor was not merely a background detail, but a force that shaped his identity, providing both comfort and constraint. Hanssen's academic path was marked by ambition tempered by setbacks. He enrolled at Northwestern University, initially pursuing dental school, a profession that promised stability and respectability. Yet, the rigors of dental studies proved overwhelming, and he dropped out before completing the program. This failure might have derailed a less determined individual, but Hanssen's resolve remained intact. He shifted his focus, earning an MBA, a credential that opened new doors and hinted at a mind capable of strategic thinking and analysis. His brief tenure with the Chicago Police Department in 1972 was a stepping stone from local law enforcement to the broader, more complex world of federal investigation. In 1976, Hanssen's career took a decisive turn when he was recruited by the FBI. The agency, still deeply engaged in the Cold War shadow battles, sought individuals with a blend of intellect, discipline, and discretion. Hanssen fit the mold perfectly. Assigned as a counterintelligence specialist, he was entrusted with the vital task of protecting America's secrets from foreign spies. His work in the New York field office focused on white-collar crime, a realm where deception was subtle and the stakes high. Hanssen's unassuming demeanor and meticulous approach allowed him to navigate this world with apparent ease, earning the trust of colleagues and superiors alike. Yet beneath the surface of the devout Catholic and diligent agent lay contradictions that would later define his legacy. Hanssen was a man of secret deviance, harboring impulses and behaviors at odds with the rigid morality he publicly espoused. This duality between the pious family man and the hidden transgressor created a tension that simmered beneath his calm exterior. His private life was marked by secrecy and compartmentalization, a pattern that foreshadowed the duplicity to come. By 1979, Hanssen had positioned himself perfectly within the FBI's counterintelligence apparatus. His knowledge of agency operations, access to sensitive information, and unremarkable persona made him an ideal candidate for betrayal. The very qualities that made him a trusted agent, discipline, discretion, and a veneer of normalcy, also made him a dangerous mole. The stage was set for a man whose zealotry, both religious and professional, would become entwined with a darker purpose. Hanssen's upbringing under a domineering father instilled in him a complex relationship with authority. Howard Hanssen's strictness fostered a sense of obedience, but also bred a quiet rebellion, a need to assert control in hidden ways. This dynamic played out in Robert's adult life, where his outward conformity masks inner conflicts and secret desires. The Catholic conservatism that shaped his early years provided a moral framework, yet it also imposed constraints that Hanssen would later challenge in private. His academic struggles and career shifts reveal a man striving for identity and purpose. Dropping out of dental school was a setback, but his pursuit of an MBA and entry into law enforcement demonstrated resilience and adaptability. The move from the Chicago Police Department to the FBI marked a significant escalation in responsibility and access, placing Hanssen at the heart of America's intelligence efforts during a critical period. In New York, Hanssen's work on white-collar crime exposed him to the complexities of deception and trust. The cases he handled required a keen intellect and an ability to navigate moral ambiguities, skills that would later serve him in his double life. His colleagues saw a dedicated agent committed to justice and the protection of national security. Yet beneath this professional facade, Hanssen was cultivating a secret world, one that would ultimately betray everything he claimed to uphold. The contradictions in Hanssen's character, pious Catholic and secret deviant, loyal agent and traitor, set the stage for a story of profound betrayal. By 1979, he was not just an FBI agent. He was a man poised to become one of the most damaging moles in American history. The making of a zealot was complete, but the true test of his character and the consequences of his choices were still to come. The autumn of 1979 was a turning point that would forever alter the course of Robert Hanssen's life and the fate of American intelligence. Beneath the veneer of a dutiful FBI agent, Hanssen was about to cross a threshold from which there was no return. In November of that year, he made contact with the Soviet Military Intelligence Service, the GRU, stepping into a shadowy world of espionage that would span more than 2 decades. This initial approach was not the act of a hardened ideologue or a man driven by political conviction. Rather, it was a complex mixture of motivations: money, ego, and a thirst for the thrill that only betrayal could provide. Hanssen's recruitment by the GRU was a carefully orchestrated dance, one that played upon his vulnerabilities and ambitions. The Soviets, ever vigilant for assets within the West, recognized in Hanssen a man whose rigid discipline masked a restless spirit. His code name, Ramon Garcia, was a cloak for a double life that would define his existence, a symbol of duplicity that would haunt the intelligence community for years to come. To understand how Hanssen came to betray his country, one must first understand the man beneath the surface. His upbringing in a strict Catholic household, his early career in law enforcement, and his steady rise through the FBI ranks all contributed to a persona of discipline and loyalty. Yet beneath this facade simmered contradictions, an insatiable need for control, a craving for recognition, and a secret life that defied the pious image he projected. The GRU's approach was not a sudden temptation, but the culmination of years of internal conflict and suppressed desires. The initial contact was made with caution and precision. Hanssen, aware of the risks, took great pains to conceal his intentions. The Soviets, skilled in the art of espionage, provided him with a secure channel to communicate, using dead drops and coded messages to avoid detection. The thrill of this clandestine exchange was intoxicating, a game of cat and mouse played out in the shadows of Cold War paranoia. The intelligence Hanssen first sold was both valuable and devastating. Among the secrets he disclosed were the identities of FBI double agents embedded deep within Soviet ranks, men and women who had risked everything to serve their country. One of the most consequential betrayals was that of General Dmitry Polyakov, a high-ranking GRU officer who had become one of the CIA's most prized assets. Polyakov's information had been instrumental in exposing Soviet military plans and capabilities, and his loss was a severe blow to American intelligence. Hanssen's disclosures led to Polyakov's compromise and eventual execution, a loss that reverberated through the intelligence community and underscored the deadly stakes of espionage. The payment for these betrayals was as symbolic as it was substantial. Hanssen received $20,000 in diamonds, a tangible reward that glittered with the cost of lives and trust. The gems were more than currency. They were a reminder of the dangerous game he had entered, a game where loyalty was a commodity and betrayal a currency. The diamonds, carefully concealed and exchanged in secret, became a symbol of Hanssen's descent into treachery. Yet, even as Hanssen embraced his role as a mole, his personal life began to fray. In 1980, his wife Bonnie discovered evidence of his duplicity. The discovery was a moment of reckoning, a confrontation with the man she thought she knew. The evidence was subtle but undeniable: unexplained absences, secretive behavior, and hints of hidden wealth. Bonnie's world was shaken, and the man she had trusted was suddenly a stranger. Hanssen's response was a confession, not to his wife, but to a priest, a man who represented the moral authority of the faith that had shaped his upbringing. In the confessional, Hanssen sought absolution, promising to stop, to return the diamonds to charity, and to abandon the path of treason. This act of contrition was both sincere and deceptive, a momentary pause in a career of betrayal that would continue with devastating consequences. Bonnie believed him. The returned diamonds were a gesture of contrition, a symbol of a man torn between sin and salvation. Yet, beneath the surface, Hanssen kept his secret, a burden he would carry for 20 years. The promise to cease spying was a lie, a carefully crafted deception that allowed him to maintain the facade of normalcy while continuing his espionage activities in secret. The early years of Hanssen's espionage were marked by this tension between confession and concealment, between the man he presented to the world and the traitor he had become. His motivations were complex, a blend of financial need, a craving for recognition, and the intoxicating thrill of living a double life. The money was significant, but it was the power and control that came with betrayal that truly captivated him. The act of spying was not merely transactional, it was a psychological game, a way to assert dominance over both his enemies and his own fractured self. Hanssen's initial betrayal set in motion a chain of events that would unravel the fabric of American intelligence. The damage was profound, the human cost immeasurable. Yet for 2 decades, the secret remained hidden, a dark stain beneath the surface of a seemingly ordinary life. His duplicity was a slow poison, seeping into the heart of the FBI and eroding trust from within. As the years passed, Hanssen's duplicity deepened, his access to sensitive information growing alongside his web of lies. The first betrayal was only the beginning, a prelude to a saga of espionage that would shake the FBI to its core. His ability to evade detection was aided by his meticulous nature and the agency's blind spots, a combination that allowed him to operate with impunity. The story of Hanssen's first betrayal is not just one of espionage, but of human complexity. The interplay of faith and sin, loyalty and treachery, confession and concealment. It is a reminder that the greatest threats often come not from external enemies, but from within, cloaked in the guise of trust and duty. The years between 1981 and 1985 were a period of quiet, almost eerie stillness in Robert Hanssen's double life, a dormant phase that belied the storm gathering beneath the surface. After his initial foray into espionage with the Soviet GRU, Hanssen retreated into the shadows. His betrayal temporarily paused, but far from over. This was a time when he consolidated his position within the FBI, gaining access and influence that would later prove invaluable to his clandestine activities. In 1981, Hanssen was transferred to the FBI headquarters in Washington, D.C., assigned to the Soviet Analytical Unit. This move was more than a routine reassignment. It placed him at the nexus of America's counterintelligence efforts against the Soviet Union. Here, Hanssen found himself in a perfect position, an insider with unparalleled access to sensitive information, including the delicate liaison between the FBI and the CIA. The very agencies tasked with protecting national security were unwittingly placing their secrets within his reach. Hanssen's rise within the Bureau was steady and unremarkable on the surface. By 1983, he had been promoted to Supervisory Special Agent, a role that expanded his responsibilities and deepened his access. His colleagues saw a dedicated professional, a man committed to the mission of safeguarding America from foreign threats. Yet beneath this facade, Hanssen's mind was elsewhere, calculating and waiting. During this period, the FBI was gripped by a growing paranoia. The agency was aware that a mole lurked within its ranks, a traitor who had been leaking secrets to the Soviets. The investigation into Aldrich Ames had begun, and the hunt for the mole was intense and relentless. Hanssen, ever the consummate actor, watched with a mixture of amusement and caution as his colleagues scrambled to uncover a threat they did not yet suspect was him. The irony was profound. Hanssen, who had once betrayed the FBI by selling secrets to the GRU, was now positioned to observe the agency's efforts to root out another traitor. The layers of deception thickened, and the stakes grew ever higher. October 1985 marked a pivotal moment, the return of Hanssen to active espionage. After years of silence, he re-established contact with Soviet intelligence, this time with the KGB rather than the GRU. The shift was significant, reflecting changes in Soviet intelligence priorities and Hanssen's own evolving role. His new code name, Ramon, later shortened to B, became the signature of a spy who had mastered the art of concealment. Hanssen's return to spying coincided with Aldrich Ames's own re-entry into the world of betrayal. Neither man knew of the other's existence, yet their parallel treacheries would come to define the darkest chapter in American counterintelligence. The year 1985 would later be remembered as the Year of the Spy, a time when the foundations of trust within the intelligence community were shaken to their core. Why did Hanssen return? The motivations were as complex as the man himself. Arrogance played a role, a belief in his own invincibility and superiority over those who sought to catch him. Financial pressures also weighed heavily. The lure of money was a powerful incentive, especially as Hanssen's personal circumstances evolved. The thrill of espionage, the sense of power it conferred, was irresistible. During these dormant years, Hanssen perfected the art of living a double life. He maintained the appearance of a loyal FBI agent, a devoted husband, and a man of faith. Yet beneath this carefully constructed exterior, he was a spy, a man who had chosen a path of deception and betrayal. The contrast between his public persona and private actions was stark, a testament to the complexity of human nature. The long silence was not a period of inactivity, but of preparation. Hanssen used this time to deepen his knowledge, expand his access, and refine his methods. When he returned to espionage, he did so with renewed purpose and greater sophistication. The years of quiet observation had honed his skills, making him a more dangerous and effective mole. As 1985 unfolded, the intelligence community was unaware of the twin betrayals taking place within its midst. Hanssen and Ames operated in parallel, each a shadowy figure undermining the very institutions they had sworn to protect. Their actions would have devastating consequences, exposing vulnerabilities and costing lives. The story of Hanssen's long silence and return is a study in patience, cunning, and the dark allure of betrayal. It reveals a man who was not merely a traitor, but a master of deception, capable of navigating the treacherous waters of espionage with calculated precision. The dormant years were a prelude to a saga of espionage that would shake the FBI to its core and leave an indelible mark on the history of intelligence. The years between 1985 and 1991 marked the zenith of Robert Hanssen's espionage career, a period when his mastery of tradecraft and access to America's most sensitive secrets made him one of the most damaging spies in history. Operating under the cloak of normalcy, Hanssen perfected the art of living a double life, weaving a web of deception that ensnared the FBI and compromised national security at the highest levels. Hanssen's tradecraft was a study in sophistication and subtlety. He employed dead drops in the quiet parks of Northern Virginia, locations chosen for their seclusion and ease of access. These dead drops, hidden caches where he left documents and received instructions, were the lifeblood of his clandestine communications. The parks, with their rustling leaves and winding paths, became silent witnesses to a betrayal that unfolded in the shadows. The years between 1985 and 1991 marked the zenith of Robert Hanssen's espionage career, a period when his mastery of tradecraft and access to America's most sensitive secrets made him one of the most damaging spies in history. Operating under the cloak of normalcy, Hanssen perfected the art of living a double life, weaving a web of deception that ensnared the FBI and compromised national security at the highest levels. Hanssen's tradecraft was a study in sophistication and subtlety. He employed dead drops in the quiet parks of Northern Virginia, locations chosen for their seclusion and ease of access. These dead drops, hidden caches where he left documents and received instructions, were the lifeblood of his clandestine communications. The parks, with their rustling leaves and winding paths, became silent witnesses to a betrayal that unfolded in the shadows. Signal sites were another hallmark of Hanssen's espionage. Using chalk marks on lampposts, curbs, and park benches, he communicated with his handlers without direct contact. These innocuous symbols, invisible to the untrained eye, conveyed messages that kept the flow of intelligence uninterrupted. The precision and discipline required to maintain such a system underscored Hanssen's meticulous nature and his deep understanding of espionage tradecraft. Remarkably, Hanssen never met his handlers face-to-face. This avoidance of direct contact was a calculated measure to reduce risk, ensuring that even if one part of the operation was compromised, the entire network would not unravel. The layers of separation added complexity to his espionage, but also enhanced his security, allowing him to operate with a degree of impunity that confounded investigators for years. The intelligence Hanssen betrayed during this period was nothing short of catastrophic. Among the most damaging disclosures was the exposure of the FBI's tunnel under the Soviet embassy in Washington, D.C., a covert operation designed to tap into Soviet communications. The tunnel, a marvel of engineering and secrecy, was rendered useless by Hanssen's revelations, a blow that set back American intelligence efforts significantly. Beyond physical operations, Hanssen's betrayals extended to human assets. Double agents, individuals who had risked their lives to infiltrate Soviet intelligence, were identified and compromised. The loss of these agents was a devastating blow, not only in terms of intelligence, but also in human cost. Lives were lost, families shattered, and years of painstaking work undone. Technical operations, the backbone of modern intelligence gathering, were also compromised. Hanssen's access to sensitive databases allowed him to reveal the methods and technologies used by the FBI to monitor and counter Soviet espionage. This exposure forced the agency to overhaul its systems, a costly and time-consuming process that underscored the depth of the breach. Throughout this period, Hanssen's payments from the Soviets accumulated to over $600,000 in cash and diamonds, a fortune that funded a lifestyle far removed from the modest means of a typical FBI agent. The money was not merely a reward, but a symbol of his success and the value placed on his betrayal by his handlers. Hanssen's double life intensified as the years passed. By day, he was a dedicated FBI agent hunting Soviet spies with zeal and precision. By night, he was a Soviet spy, feeding secrets to the enemy with cold calculation. This duality was a psychological balancing act, a testament to his ability to compartmentalize and deceive. His professional ascent continued unabated. Hanssen was promoted to computer security specialist, a role that granted him access to the FBI's most sensitive databases. This position was both a privilege and a weapon, allowing him to monitor investigations, access classified information, and manipulate data to cover his tracks. The irony of Hanssen's position was profound. He was entrusted with protecting America's secrets while simultaneously betraying them. His knowledge of the FBI's internal workings gave him an unparalleled advantage, enabling him to evade detection and continue his espionage undisturbed. The years from 1985 to 1991 were a period of unparalleled betrayal, marked by Hanssen's mastery of espionage and the devastating impact of his actions. His tradecraft, access, and duplicity combined to create a perfect storm of deception that shook the foundations of American intelligence. Hanssen's story during these years is a chilling reminder of the vulnerabilities inherent in even the most secure institutions. It is a tale of trust betrayed, of secrets sold, and of the human capacity for deception. The master spy operated in plain sight, a ghost in the corridors of power, leaving a trail of destruction that would take years to fully comprehend. The years from 1992 to 2000 were a paradoxical chapter in Robert Hanssen's life, a period marked by increasingly bizarre personal behavior and mounting professional red flags, yet astonishingly no consequences. Hanssen's double life grew ever more complex, his public persona steeped in extreme religious conservatism, while his private actions revealed a man living on the edge of contradiction and secrecy. Meanwhile, within the FBI, warning signs accumulated, but the agency's response was lethargic at best, allowing the mole to operate with impunity until the very end. Hanssen's personal life during this period was a study in contradictions. On one hand, he was a devout Catholic, attending daily Mass and a member of the ultra-conservative Opus Dei, a group known for its strict adherence to religious discipline. His public image was that of a man deeply committed to faith and morality, a pillar of his community and family. Yet beneath this veneer lurked behavior that was bizarre and troubling. In a startling breach of privacy and decency, Hanssen posted photos of his wife Bonnie on internet sex sites, a secret act that betrayed a disturbing voyeuristic streak. His relationship with Jack Hoschauer, a pseudonym for a man involved in voyeurism, further underscored the gulf between his public piety and private indulgences. Hanssen was a regular at strip clubs, where he recruited a stripper as a friend, weaving yet another layer of duplicity into his already tangled life. These contradictions were not mere eccentricities, but signs of a man compartmentalizing extremes, living a fractured existence that few could comprehend. At work, the warning signs were equally glaring. Hanssen engaged in unexplained database searches, probing files far beyond the scope of his duties. He violated password protocols, entered restricted areas without authorization, and downloaded classified files to his home computer. These actions were not subtle breaches, but blatant violations of security protocols. Colleagues noticed and reported their concerns, yet the FBI's response was muted, a reflection of institutional complacency and perhaps disbelief that one of their own could be the source of such breaches. In 1994, Hanssen was moved to the State Department as the FBI liaison, a position that only enhanced his access to sensitive information. This posting was a perfect continuation of his espionage activities, placing him at the crossroads of interagency intelligence sharing. The trust placed in him was profound, yet it was a trust that would be exploited to devastating effect. The year 2000 marked the final chapter of Hanssen's spying career. By this time, his total take from the Soviets and later the Russians had reached an estimated $1.4 million in cash and diamonds, a fortune amassed at the expense of national security and countless lives. His ability to evade detection despite mounting evidence was a testament to his cunning and the failures of the system designed to catch him. Hanssen's story during these years is a stark reminder of the dangers of complacency and the complexities of human nature. His public devotion masked a private life of contradictions, while his professional misconduct was met with inaction. The mole was hidden in plain sight, a ghost within the FBI's own walls, until the very end. The year 2000 dawned with a quiet urgency within the highest echelons of American intelligence. For years, Robert Hanssen had operated in the shadows, a ghost within the FBI, betraying secrets with impunity. Yet the tide was turning. The breakthrough came not from the Bureau's own investigations, but from an unexpected and costly source, a KGB file purchased for an astonishing $7 million. This trove of intelligence, painstakingly compiled by Russian defectors and counterintelligence operatives, contained the threads that would unravel Hanssen's carefully woven web of deception. The file was a revelation. It detailed the operations of Soviet intelligence, including the identity of their American asset codenamed B. For years, B had been a phantom, a shadowy figure whose true identity eluded even the most seasoned investigators. But now the pieces fell into place. In November 2000, the FBI's counterintelligence division identified B as one of their own, Robert Hanssen. The confirmation was both shocking and devastating. The evidence was irrefutable. Surveillance recordings captured Hanssen's voice during clandestine meetings with his handlers. His mannerisms, speech patterns, and even the cadence of his footsteps were unmistakable. The mole was no longer a faceless traitor, but a man who had walked the halls of the FBI for decades, betraying his country with cold calculation. In response, the FBI formed a task force of unparalleled secrecy and skill. Composed of the Bureau's most trusted operatives, the team was charged with a singular mission: to confirm Hanssen's guilt beyond any doubt and to apprehend him without alerting him to the net closing around him. The stakes were immense. A premature move could send Hanssen fleeing, destroying evidence and endangering lives. Patience and precision were paramount.
The strategy was meticulous. Hanssen was to be transferred to a new assignment, a move designed to place him under closer scrutiny while maintaining the illusion of normalcy. The task force would monitor his every move, intercept his communications, and prepare to catch him in the act of espionage. The goal was to gather incontrovertible evidence that would stand up in court and bring the traitor to justice. In January 2001, Hanssen was recalled to FBI headquarters under the pretext of a new assignment. Though subtle suspicions flickered in his mind, he accepted the transfer without hesitation, confident in his ability to evade detection. Unbeknownst to him, the Bureau's eyes were upon him with unblinking vigilance. Surveillance intensified to an unprecedented level. Agents monitored Hanssen's phone calls, tracking every word and pause. His movements were shadowed by operatives who blended seamlessly into the background. Even his interactions with colleagues were observed, searching for any sign of duplicity or escape. The task force operated with a singular focus, aware that the moment to strike was drawing near. The culmination of this painstaking operation was a dead drop scheduled for February 18, 2001. Hanssen was to leave classified materials at a predetermined location, a final act of betrayal that would provide the evidence needed for his arrest. The decision was made to apprehend him at the scene, ensuring that the mole could be caught red-handed, leaving no room for doubt or evasion. As the day approached, tension within the task force was palpable. Years of investigation, patience, and vigilance had led to this moment. The trap was set, and the spy who had betrayed his country for so long was about to be unmasked. On that cold February day, the operation unfolded with precision. Hanssen arrived at the dead drop location, unaware that every step was watched. As he placed the materials, agents moved in swiftly, surrounding him before he could react. The arrest was quiet but definitive, a moment that marked the end of a dark chapter in American intelligence. The aftermath was a whirlwind of revelations and reckonings. Hanssen's confession, the extent of the damage, and the depth of his duplicity sent shockwaves through the FBI and the nation. Operation Gray Day was hailed as a triumph of perseverance and dedication, a testament to the power of vigilance in the face of betrayal. Yet, the story also served as a sobering reminder of the vulnerabilities within even the most secure institutions. Hanssen's ability to operate undetected for so long exposed flaws in oversight, trust, and internal security. The lessons learned would shape the future of American intelligence, driving reforms and a renewed commitment to safeguarding the nation's secrets. The trap had closed, but the echoes of betrayal would linger for years to come. The mole was caught, but the scars he left behind were deep and enduring. a stark testament to the cost of deception and the enduring struggle to protect a nation from threats both external and within. The late afternoon sun cast long shadows over Foxstone Park on February 18, 2001, as Robert Hanssen arrived for what would be his final dead drop. The quiet suburban setting belied the gravity of the moment. Agents lay in wait, their presence concealed but their resolve unshakable. When Hanssen placed the package and turned, he was met not with the familiar anonymity of espionage, but with the cold reality of arrest. His only words, spoken with a mixture of impatience and resignation, were, "What took you so long?" The question was less a challenge than an acknowledgement of inevitability. A man who had lived in the shadows now confronted by the light of justice. The arrest sent shockwaves through Hanssen's personal life. His wife, Bonnie, was devastated, not only by the betrayal of her country, but by the personal duplicity that shattered their marriage. She had been betrayed twice, once by the man she loved, and once by the secrets he kept hidden beneath a veneer of normalcy. The emotional toll was profound, a private tragedy unfolding alongside the public spectacle. Hanssen's confession was a study in minimization and justification. He sought to frame his actions as the product of personal failings rather than ideological treason. His words revealed a man struggling to reconcile the enormity of his betrayal with a fractured sense of self. The plea agreement that followed spared him the death penalty but condemned him to life imprisonment without parole, a sentence that underscored the severity of his crimes. On May 10, 2002, Hanssen was formally sentenced, his fate sealed by the weight of evidence and the gravity of his actions. The court's decision was met with a mixture of relief and sorrow, a recognition of justice served, but also of the deep wounds inflicted. Controversy followed in the wake of the sentencing. Bonnie Hanssen received 55% of Robert's FBI pension, a decision that sparked debate and discomfort. The notion that the wife of a traitor could benefit financially from his service was a bitter pill for many, highlighting the complex intersections of law, loyalty, and consequence. The damage Hanssen inflicted was staggering. Over 50 classified programs were exposed, their secrets laid bare to foreign adversaries. More than 3 Soviet agents, including the invaluable General Dmitry Polyakov, were executed as a direct result of his betrayals. Technical operations, the backbone of modern intelligence, were destroyed or compromised, forcing costly and time-consuming rebuilds. The harm to national security was incalculable, a wound that would take years to heal. Today, Robert Hanssen resides in ADX Florence, the federal supermax prison known for its extreme security measures. His existence is one of isolation, 23-hour lockdowns, no human contact, and a life stripped of freedom and connection. Despite the gravity of his crimes and the solitude of his punishment, Hanssen has expressed no remorse, a final testament to the complex and troubling nature of his character. The downfall of Robert Hanssen is a story of betrayal and reckoning, a chapter in the ongoing struggle to protect a nation's secrets from those who would sell them for personal gain. It is a reminder that vigilance must never waver, and that the cost of betrayal is measured not only in secrets lost, but in lives forever changed. The story of Robert Hanssen is one of paradox and profound contradiction. A man who, for 22 years, managed to betray his country while cloaked in the guise of a devout Catholic and dedicated FBI agent. His success as a spy was not merely a product of cunning tradecraft or access to secrets. It was deeply rooted in the complexities of his psychology and the institutional blind spots of the agency he served. Hanssen's devout Catholicism was a defining feature of his identity. His daily mass attendance, membership in Opus Dei, and public displays of faith painted a picture of a man committed to moral rigor and discipline. Yet beneath this veneer lay a serial traitor, a man whose actions were driven by arrogance, contempt for his colleagues, and a profound sense of superiority. This paradox, piety intertwined with betrayal, made Hanssen uniquely difficult to detect. His faith provided a shield, a narrative that disarmed suspicion and masked the duplicity beneath. Arrogance was central to Hanssen's psychology. He viewed himself as intellectually and morally above those around him, a belief that fueled his contempt for colleagues and his confidence in evading detection. This hubris blinded him to the risks and ultimately contributed to his downfall. His disdain for others was matched only by his meticulousness and patience, qualities that allowed him to operate undetected for over 2 decades. The FBI's institutional blindness played a critical role in Hanssen's success. Despite numerous warning signs, unexplained database searches, security violations, and suspicious behavior, investigations failed to focus on him. The agency's culture of trust, combined with a reluctance to suspect one of their own, created an environment where red flags were overlooked or dismissed. This complacency was a vulnerability that Hanssen exploited with devastating effect. Hanssen's espionage ran parallel to that of Aldrich Ames, the CIA mole whose betrayal was equally damaging. Remarkably, the 2 men operated simultaneously, unaware of each other's existence, each unraveling the fabric of American intelligence from within. Their cases highlighted the systemic challenges faced by U.S. counterintelligence and underscored the need for vigilance across agencies. In response to these betrayals, the FBI and CIA implemented reforms aimed at tightening security and improving internal oversight. Enhanced financial monitoring, stricter access controls, and a culture of skepticism were promoted to prevent future mole activity. Yet, questions remain about whether these measures are sufficient in an era of evolving threats and sophisticated espionage tactics. The Hanssen case also challenged the American self-image, a belief in the inherent loyalty and integrity of those who serve. It forced a reckoning with the uncomfortable truth that betrayal can come from within, that trust must be balanced with verification, and that even the most trusted individuals can harbor secrets. Hanssen's legacy is a cautionary tale etched into the history of American intelligence. It is a reminder that vigilance is perpetual, that the cost of betrayal is measured not only in lost secrets, but in shattered lives and national vulnerability. The mantra, "Trust but verify," takes on renewed significance, emphasizing the need for constant scrutiny, even of those who appear beyond reproach. Yet, despite the extensive investigations and reforms, questions about Hanssen's motivations, the full extent of his damage, and the vulnerabilities he exploited remain. His story is a complex tapestry of human frailty, institutional failure, and the enduring struggle to protect a nation's secrets in a world rife with deception. In the end, the psychology of the perfect spy is not merely about skill or access, but about the intricate interplay of character, circumstance, and opportunity. Robert Hanssen's story is a profound lesson in the dangers of complacency and the necessity of relentless vigilance, a legacy that continues to shape the landscape of American intelligence.